Today, we dive into the Uganda People's Defence Forces Act. But first, some context. Enacted in 2005, the UPDF Act established military courts that have gone on to prosecute thousands of civilians. Since then, Ugandan courts have grappled with the issue of whether military courts are courts of judicature as provided for under Article 129, Sub-Article 1 of the Constitution, or whether the court-martial has jurisdiction over civilians. The first time the Constitutional Court addressed the issue was in 2006, and the court ruled that prosecution of civilians in military courts was unlawful. But military courts still kept prosecuting civilians, and by 2016, over 1,000 civilians had been prosecuted for criminal offenses such as murder and armed robbery. In January 2021, 49 members of the opposition, in particular the National Unity Platform (NUP), appeared before the General Court-Martial following their arrest in December of 2020 in Kalangala during the election campaigns.
Now, the High Court in Kampala has dismissed an appeal in which 49 NUP supporters were challenging the legality of their trial before the General Court-Martial in Makindye under Section 119 of the UPDF Act, which provides that any person found with firearms shall be subjected to military law. She added that until the Army Court determined their innocence, they would continue to report to Makindye for trial.
Former Forum for Democratic Change Nakawa legislator Michael Kabaziguruka was one of those who was being tried before the court-martial for allegedly aiding and abetting persons to overthrow the government. He challenged his prosecution first before the High Court, and the matter was dismissed. He then petitioned the Constitutional Court, which in a 3-2 decision agreed that civilians shouldn't be tried by the military court. However, the Attorney General appealed the decision and asked court for a stay of execution, which was granted. After a 4-year wait, the Supreme Court on January 31, 2025 delivered a majority decision agreeing with the Constitutional Court that civilians should not be tried in military tribunals. The Constitutional Court did also recommend that military courts be reconstituted following the principles of natural justice. During that wait, the military courts continued trying civilians, including prominent opposition figure Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, who was abducted from Kenya and charged in the court-martial in November 2024. But government fought back. In May, less than 4 months after the Supreme Court decision, Parliament debated and passed the UPDF Amendment Bill within just a week, despite a boycott by members of the opposition during the final vote. President Museveni also quickly assented to it, and the act was gazetted on 27th of June this year. Here is why you should care. This law not only allows for what they have called exceptional circumstances which are not defined, it also undermines judicial fairness and civilian rights. This piece of legislation significantly impacts everyone's rights, freedoms, and the balance of power between the military and civilian institutions in the country. The Ugandan 1995 Constitution, as amended in Article 208, Sub-Article 2, clearly stipulates that the army must remain subordinate to civilian authority. Human rights advocates as such argue that not only does the UPDF Act as amended violate the Constitution, but it could lead to worse abuse of power, increased suppression of the opposition and other critics. It also contravenes constitutional protections like the right to a fair hearing as provided for under Article 28, Sub-Article 1 and Article 44C of the Constitution. Our civil liberties such as freedom of opinion and expression are also at risk. Musicians including artist Latif Madoy have found themselves arrested and tortured because that law provides for restrictions on civilian use of certain attire or symbols associated with the military. As if that's not restrictive enough, the Act also creates powerful military structures like the Joint Military Command, with limited civilian oversight, sparking fears of militarization and reduced accountability.